If you are playing a version published by Gameloft or a similar studio, Uno 3 usually features a vibrant, comic book style. The cards are large enough to be readable on a tiny LCD screen, and the background often depicts a casual tabletop setting or a stylized room. The user interface was optimized for directional pads. You'll typically see your hand at the bottom of the screen, with the discard pile in the center and the computer player's card counts on the top corners. A nice touch in Uno 3 is the animation cards slide smoothly for Java, and the Uno callout pops up aggressively when a player is down to their last card. It's a visual upgrade from the pixelated mess of earlier mobile card games. Let's be honest, mobile Java AI could be notoriously dumb or brutally psychic. Uno 3 sits in a decent middle ground. On easy, the AI will play randomly, often forgetting to call Uno or wasting wild cards. On hard, the AI tracks colors and strategically holds draw fours until the worst possible moment for you. One distinct memory of this game is the reverse card logic. On a two-player match you versus one CPU, reverse acts as a skip. The AI knows this. It's a small programming quirk, but if you play this version today, you'll notice the computer players have distinct personalities. One might be aggressive with draw cards, another conservative. Audio-wise, keep your expectations retro. Uno 3 utilizes the MIDI sound banks of your old phone. The music is a looped, upbeat jazz or Latin track that sounds like it belongs in an elevator in 2005. You'll hear the satisfying blip of a card being placed and a dramatic buzz when you forget to call Uno and get penalized with two cards. Technically, the game was lightweight, usually under 500 kilobytes. This meant instant loading times. You could open this app, play around, and close it within 5 minutes without draining your battery. That was the beauty of Java gaming. When you hear Nova 3, you probably think of the console quality, first-person shooter that Gameloft released for the iPhone and high-end Android phones back in 2012. You know, the one sci-fi epic trying to compete with Halo and Crysis. In 2012, not everyone had a Super AMOLED touchscreen. Many of us were still using Nokia S40 devices or Sony Ericsson slider phones. You couldn't run the massive 1.5 GB version of Nova 3 on those. Gameloft did something brilliant or crazy. This wasn't a port, it was a demake. It took the story, the weapons, and the characters of the main game, but turned it into a 2.5D side-scroller. Think of games like Metal Slug or Contra, but with a sci-fi Gameloft coat of paint. The Java version of Nova featured the same core plot as the expensive 3D version. You play as Cal Warden, returning to Earth to fight the Volterites. But instead of looking down a gun scope, you watched your little pixelated soldier run through ruined cities, dodging fire and jumping over obstacles. Later in the game's life, Gameloft released Nova Freedom Edition. This was a free-to-play version of the game supported by ads. In the smartphone world, this was a stripped-down version. But in the Java world, this was often the only way to play the game legally if you didn't have a data plan for app stores. Believe it or not, this tiny game even tried to mimic the multiplayer features of its big brother. While the HD version had 12-player online battles, the Java version usually offered Bluetooth multiplayer. You could link up with a friend wirelessly, a rare feature for a 500 KB game, and play deathmatch on maps designed for 2D movement. Let's talk about the graphics. You cannot compare it to Infinity Blade, but for Java, it was top tier. Gameloft was the king of the dumbphone era. They used sprite scaling to simulate depth, meaning enemies in the distance would get larger as they ran toward you. It wasn't true 3D, but it faked depth so well that it felt like a budget console game. The color palettes were vibrant, the explosion effects, while pixelated, were satisfying, and the frame rate, if you had a decent Nokia, was rock solid. While the console version took years to play out, this entire mobile adventure is set entirely in the year 1486. Ezio teams up with Niccolo Machiavelli, but unlike the main game where you recruit strangers off the street, the assassins here are already an established club, and they make Ezio run errands for them before they'll help. You'll travel not just through Rome, but also Florence and Venice. Ezio has his sword and hidden blade, but Gameloft gave him a few toys that console Ezio never had. He has a grappling hook. He can use it to yank guards off ledges or hang them from trees. Pocket Gamer criticized it heavily back in the day, noting that the game essentially plays itself. Big flashing numbers appear on screen telling you exactly which button to press to jump. If you hesitate or go off the path, Ezio suddenly forgets how to grab a ledge. It is a game that looks like an action title, but plays more like a rhythm game. One of the biggest changes from the console lore involves the villains. The followers of Romulus, called the Wolfmen here, are the first enemies you face. Their leader is literally named Romulus, and you kill him in the Colosseum in the first level. But the real highlight or lowlight, depending on your patience, is Leonardo da Vinci's flying machine. In the console game, this was a short gliding mission. It's a full-on vehicle combat level. Ezio doesn't just fly, he destroys the entire Borgia Armada. You are dodging projectiles in a top-down shooter style, fighting a giant watermill-powered battleship. It is absurd, it is difficult, and it is totally unique to this Java version. The final boss fight against Cesare Borgia is where the mobile developers decided to throw balance out the window. Because Ezio hasn't retrieved the Apple of Eden yet, Cesare has it, and he uses it to become a lightning god. We aren't talking about a simple sword fight. Cesare shoots energy grenades, creates electric shockwaves, and enters a levitating, invincible super mode. At one point, he can literally crucify Ezio on an electric cross. It is anime-level insanity compared to the grounded tone of the console games. Once Ezio wins, the brutality continues. Ezio doesn't just push Cesare off a wall. He stabs him repeatedly, strangles him, blasts him with lightning from the apple, and finally drives a sword through his skull. It is the most violent execution in the entire franchise history, and nobody talks about it because it is trapped on old phones. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into retro mobile gaming.